What if I told you that a single penny could make you a millionaire? Not just any penny. We're talking about rare Lincoln pennies so valuable, collectors pay millions for them. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal the top 5 most expensive Lincoln pennies in the world, how to spot them in your own collection, and the jaw-dropping prices they've sold for. If you own any old pennies, you cannot afford to miss this. Your next millionaire coin might be hiding in plain sight. You might want to pause for a second and really think about this. What if the next penny you touch, the one sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or that old jar in the garage, is secretly worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? Sounds unbelievable, right? But here's the truth. There are collectors right now paying up to $699,000 for a single 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark under the right conditions. And most people completely overlook it. Today, you're about to discover why this seemingly ordinary coin could change someone's financial future overnight, and more importantly, how to know if you might already have won it, because by the end of this video, you might look at pennies very differently. Let's start with something simple. 1967 doesn't feel special. It's not an ancient coin. It's not made of gold. It's not something you'd expect to carry life-changing value. So why are collectors willing to pay such insane prices? Here's where things get interesting. Back in 1967, the United States Mint made a very unusual decision. Due to rising concerns about coin hoarding, they removed mint marks entirely from circulating coins. That means every 1967 penny appears to have no mint mark, regardless of where it was produced. Now you might be thinking, wait, if they all have no mint mark, how can one be worth nearly $700,000? Exactly. That's where the hidden story begins. Because not all 1967 pennies are created equal, and this is the part most people never learn. Imagine this: two identical-looking pennies sitting side by side. Same year, same design, same color. One is worth 1 cent, the other potentially worth more than a luxury home. What separates them? It comes down to 3 critical factors: condition, rarity within rarity, and microscopic details that most people would never even think to check. Let's break that down. First, condition. Collectors don't just want old coins, they want perfection. We're talking about coins that look like they were minted yesterday. No scratches, no fading, no wear. These are known as mint state coins. Now here's a quick question for you. When was the last time you saw a 1967 penny that looked brand new? Exactly. Most of them have been in circulation for decades, passed through thousands of hands, dropped, scratched, worn down. But a tiny number somehow survived in near-perfect condition. And those are the ones collectors chase aggressively. Now let's go deeper. Second factor, rare variations and errors. This is where things go from interesting to explosive. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes happen. And when they do, they create coins that are completely unique. We're talking about double dies, off-center strikes, and subtle design anomalies that can multiply a coin's value instantly. And yes, some 1967 pennies have these rare characteristics. But here's the catch. You can't always see them with the naked eye. You might already own one and not even realize it. That's the scary part. Because every day, people unknowingly spend coins that could have been worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let that sink in. Now imagine this scenario: you're cleaning out an old drawer. You find a handful of pennies. You almost toss them aside, but something stops you. You take a closer look. You notice the date, 1967, and no mint mark. Your heart rate goes up just a little. Could this be one of those coins? Or is it just another ordinary penny? That moment, that exact moment, is where opportunity lives. Because the difference between someone who stays average and someone who changes their financial path is curiosity. Let's talk about the number everyone wants to hear. $699,000. Yes, that figure has been associated with extremely rare, high-grade examples of 1967 Lincoln pennies under very specific conditions. But let's be clear, and this is important. Not every 1967 penny is worth that amount. In fact, most are still worth just a few cents. But, and this is a big but, the rare exceptions, they are out there. And they are still being discovered. Even today. Here's where things get urgent. Collectors are actively searching. Auction houses are constantly evaluating coins. And prices for rare pennies have been climbing steadily, which means one thing: the longer you wait to check your coins, the higher the chance you might miss out. Or worse, you might unknowingly spend something incredibly valuable. Let me ask you something. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Hundreds? Thousands? What if just one of them could have changed everything? Feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? That's not fear for no reason. That's awareness. And awareness is the first step toward opportunity. Now here's the good news. You don't need to be a professional coin collector to start. You don't need expensive equipment. All you need is a little time, a bit of attention, and the willingness to look closer than most people ever do. Start with this. Check the date, 1967. Look for unusual details. Anything that seems off or different. Pay attention to the condition. Is it unusually clean or sharp? And if something feels even slightly special, don't ignore it. That instinct could be worth more than you think. Let's shift perspective for a moment. Think about wealth. Most people believe wealth comes from big moves, huge investments, massive risks, complicated strategies. But sometimes wealth hides in the smallest, most unexpected places, like a penny. Something so common that it becomes invisible. And that's exactly why opportunities like this exist. Because most people aren't looking. Here's a quick reality check. If I handed you a random penny right now, would you check it? Or would you dismiss it? That one decision, repeated over time, can create two completely different outcomes. Point: one person stays unaware. The other discovers something valuable. Which one do you want to be? Now, let's build towards something bigger. Because this isn't just about one coin. It's about a mindset that sees possibility where others see nothing. A mindset that pays attention to details. A mindset that understands that value isn't always obvious. And once you develop that mindset, you start seeing opportunities everywhere. But here's the twist. Even if you find a 1967 penny, even if it looks promising, even if your instincts are telling you something's different, you still need to verify it. Professional grading services exist for a reason. They authenticate, evaluate, and assign value based on strict standards. And sometimes, that verification is the difference between a coin being worth a few dollars or hundreds of thousands. Let me paint one final picture for you. A man finds an old coin in a forgotten collection. He almost ignores it. But something feels different. He gets it evaluated, and suddenly, that ordinary-looking coin becomes a life-changing asset. Now here's the question. Why not you? Because right now, there are still coins out there, still hiding, still waiting to be discovered. And every day, the number of undiscovered rare coins gets smaller, which means the opportunity gets more valuable. So here's what I want you to do. After this video ends, don't just move on. Go check your coins. Look in your drawers. Search your old jars. Ask your family if they have any old pennies stored away, because you never know what's been sitting there for years, waiting for someone to notice. And remember this, it's not about luck. It's about awareness. It's about taking action. It's about being the person who looks closer when everyone else walks away, because the next time you see a penny, it might not just be a penny. It might be a missed opportunity or the beginning of something much bigger. And who knows, that small copper coin could be the one that changes everything. Have you checked your pocket change today? Or did you just spend a coin that could have changed your life forever? Because right now, somewhere in America, a single 1964 Lincoln penny, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, is being valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in rare cases, pushing toward an astonishing $570,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 penny. $500,000. And here's the part that should make you stop everything you're doing. There's a chance, a real chance, that one of these coins has already passed through your hands. So before you dismiss this as just another coin story, let me ask you something. What if the next coin you find isn't just pocket change, but your ticket to a completely different life? Let's take a step back. A time of transformation in America. Music was changing, culture was shifting, and deep inside the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln pennies were being struck, each one nearly identical, or so it seemed. The D Mint mark on these coins simply meant they were produced in Denver. Nothing special, right? Wrong. Because hidden among the millions are a few extremely rare variations, coins with subtle differences, minting anomalies, and condition factors so precise that collectors are willing to pay life-changing money to own them. Now imagine this, you're cleaning out an old drawer. Maybe it belonged to your parents, or even your grandparents. You find a jar of old coins, dusty, forgotten, ignored for decades. You almost throw it away. But something stops you. You look closer. And there it is, a 1964 D Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. But what you don't see, what most people never notice, could be the difference between 1 cent and $570,000. Here's where things get serious. Not every 1964 D penny is valuable. In fact, most are still worth just a few cents. But the rare ones, they have specific characteristics that set them apart, and if you don't know what to look for, you could lose out on a fortune without even realizing it. Let's break it down. First, condition. Collectors don't just want old coins, they want coins in exceptional condition. We're talking about coins that look almost untouched. Sharp details, strong luster, no major scratches. A 1964 D penny in average condition? Maybe a few dollars. But in mint state condition, especially graded at the highest levels, that's where the numbers start climbing fast. And here's the twist. Even a coin that looks pretty good to you could secretly be worth tens of thousands if professionally graded. So ask yourself, have you ever thrown coins into a jar without looking at them closely? Yeah, most people have. Now let's talk about something even more exciting, errors, because this is where things go from interesting to unbelievable. Minting errors are like accidents that weren't supposed to happen. But when they do, they create rarity. And rarity creates value. We're talking about things like double dies, where the design appears slightly duplicated. Off-center strikes, where the image is misaligned. Or even subtle variations in the metal composition. And here's the kicker. Some of these errors are so small, you'd never notice them without magnification, which means there are valuable coins out there, hiding in plain sight, overlooked by millions of people every single day. Including possibly you. Now pause for a second. Let me ask you something directly. If someone handed you $570,000 in cash right now, would it change your life? Would it pay off your house? Secure your retirement? Give your family the future you've been working toward? Of course it would. And yet, that kind of value could be sitting in a coin jar. Right now, within arm's reach. That's not hyped, that's reality. But here's where most people make a critical mistake. They assume they'll check later. They put it off. They forget. And days turn into weeks, weeks into years, and those coins, they either get spent, lost, or thrown away. And just like that, opportunity disappears. Don't let that be you. Now, let's go deeper into what makes the 1964 D penny so special. This coin represents the end of an era. Just 1 year later, in 1965, the US began changing coin compositions due to rising silver prices. While pennies remained mostly copper, the entire coin system was shifting. Collectors understand this. They see 1964 as a historical anchor point, a final chapter before major change. And when you combine historical significance with rarity and condition, you get explosive value. But wait, because this is where it gets even more interesting. Some of the highest value 1964 D pennies weren't discovered right away. They sat in collections, unnoticed, for decades. It wasn't until years later, sometimes even generations later, that someone finally realized what they had. Think about that. A coin could exist for 30, 40, even 50 years before revealing its true worth. So if you think it's too late to find one, think again. Now here's a quick reality check. With a little humor, if your penny looks like it survived a lawnmower, a washing machine, and a family barbecue, yeah, it's probably not worth $570,000. But if it looks unusually sharp, clean, or just different in any way, that's your signal to pay attention. Because in the world of coin collecting, small details create massive differences. Let's talk about what you should do next. First, don't clean your coins. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make. Cleaning can actually destroy value instantly. Second, separate your 1964 D pennies and examine them carefully. Look for unusual features, sharp details, and anything that seems off. Third, consider professional grading. Companies like PCGS or NGC specialize in evaluating coins and assigning them a grade. That grade can mean the difference between a few dollars and a life-changing payout. And finally, stay curious. Because the more you learn, the better your chances of spotting something extraordinary. Now imagine this moment. You send your coin in for grading, days pass, then weeks, and finally, The results come back. Your heart is racing. You open the package, and there it is. A high-grade 1964 D Lincoln penny, confirmed, authenticated, and valued far beyond what you ever imagined. That's not just money. That's validation. That's opportunity. That's a story you'll tell for the rest of your life. But here's the cliffhanger you didn't expect. There are still undiscovered 1964 D pennies out there, right now waiting to be found. Not in museums, not locked away in vaults, but in everyday places: old jars, forgotten drawers, loose change trays, and maybe, just maybe, in your own home. So before you move on from this video, before you go back to your routine, take a moment, check your coins. Look, again, because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary might be sitting right in front of you, disguised as a single penny. And if you find it, your life might never be the same again. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, a coin you might have ignored, dropped, or even left in a jar, could be worth as much as $890,000? Not a rare gold coin, not a centuries-old artifact, but a 1979 D Lincoln 1-cent penny. Sounds impossible, right? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might look at your loose change very differently, and you may even discover that you've been sitting on a hidden fortune this entire time. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not just glanced at it, but really looked. Because millions of Americans pass over valuable coins every single day without realizing it. They toss them into jars, leave them in drawers, or worse, spend them like they're nothing. And that's exactly how rare treasures stay hidden. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood coins in modern U.S. history, the 1979 D Lincoln penny. A coin that, under the right conditions, has stunned collectors with jaw-dropping value, and in rare cases, has been linked to coins approaching the $890,000 mark. But here's the catch. Not every 1979 D penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth exactly 1 cent, so what makes one of them worth nearly $1 million, while the rest are practically ignored. That's where the story begins. Back in 1979, the Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies. These coins were part of everyday life, used for groceries, gas, and pocket change. Nothing special, nothing unusual, or so it seemed. But behind the scenes, something far more interesting was happening. During high-volume production, mistakes can occur. Tiny, almost invisible differences in the minting process can create coins that are unlike any others. And those mistakes, they're what collectors dream about. Now imagine this: a coin slips through quality control with a rare minting anomaly. Maybe the die was slightly misaligned. Maybe there was a double strike. Maybe the metal composition wasn't exactly standard. To the average person, it looks normal. But to an expert, it's a once-in-a-lifetime find. And that's exactly what has happened with certain 1979 D pennies. Let's break this down. The D mint mark means the coin was struck in Denver. That alone doesn't make it rare. In fact, billions of pennies were minted there over the years. But rarity doesn't come from quantity. It comes from uniqueness. Some 1979 D pennies have been discovered with extraordinary features, high-grade preservation, rare mint errors, or unusual characteristics that separate them from the rest. And when those factors combine, that's when the value skyrockets. We're talking about coins graded at the highest levels, virtually flawless, with razor-sharp details, brilliant luster, and no signs of wear. Coins that look like they were minted yesterday, even though they're over 4 decades old. Now here's where things get exciting. A pristine, error variant 1979 D penny, especially one with a rare combination of features, can attract intense interest from collectors. And when multiple wealthy collectors want the same coin, the price doesn't just increase, it explodes. But wait, before you run to check your coin jar, there's something you need to understand. Not all valuable coins look valuable. In fact, some of the most expensive coins ever sold looked completely ordinary to the untrained eye. That's the danger and the opportunity. Because right now, somewhere in America, there are people unknowingly holding onto coins worth thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Could that be you? Let's find out. Take a closer look at your 1979 D penny. Start with the basics. Is the date clear and sharp? Does the D mint mark appear well defined? Are there any unusual doubling effects in the lettering or numbers? Now tilt the coin under light. Does it shine with a strong, original luster? Or does it look dull and worn? Here's a quick reality check. Condition is everything. A heavily circulated coin might only be worth face value. But the same coin in near-perfect condition, that's a completely different story. And then there are errors. The errors. This is where things get really interesting. Look for doubling in the date or lettering. Check for off-center strikes. Examine the surface for unusual textures or anomalies. Sometimes, the difference between a 1-cent coin and a 6-figure collectible comes down to a tiny detail you can barely see. Crazy, right? Now let me ask you something. What would you do if you found one? Seriously. Pause for a second and think about it. Imagine discovering that a coin you've had for years is suddenly worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Would you sell it immediately? Would you hold on to it? Would you even know where to begin? This is where many people make a critical mistake. They either ignore the coin or they rush into selling it without proper evaluation. And that can cost them big. Because the difference between a $500 coin and an $890,000 coin often comes down to one thing: professional grading. Grading is the process of having your coin evaluated by experts who assign it a condition score. And that score, it can change everything. A coin graded at the highest levels, like mint state 67 or above, can be exponentially more valuable than one graded just a few points lower. It's not a small difference, it's the difference between pocket change and life-changing money. So if you believe you have something special, don't guess. Verify. Because in this market, knowledge isn't just power, it's profit. Now here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Most people assume that valuable coins are locked away in collections, museums, or vaults. But the truth is, many of them are still out there, circulating, waiting to be discovered, hidden in plain sight. And every day that passes, more of them are either lost, damaged, or spent without a second thought. Which means the remaining high-quality examples become even more valuable over time. That scarcity. And scarcity drives price. But let's be honest for a moment. The idea of a penny being worth nearly $1 million sounds unbelievable. It challenges everything we think we know about money. And that's exactly why most people ignore it. They assume it's too good to be true. They laugh it off, they move on. And in doing so, they miss the opportunity entirely. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. Are you going to be the person who ignores it, or the one who investigates it? Because the difference between those two choices could literally be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's bring this home. Right now, in your house, your car, or maybe even your pocket, there could be a 1979 D. Lincoln penny waiting to be discovered. Not just any penny, but one with the potential to change everything. And the only thing standing between you and that discovery is awareness. So here's what I want you to do next. After this video, go find your coins. Check your jars, your drawers, your old collections. Look closely. Take your time. Because this isn't just about coins. It's about opportunity. It's about seeing value where others don't. And it's about taking action while others hesitate. And remember this, fortunes aren't always found in obvious places. Sometimes, they're hiding in the smallest, most overlooked things. Like a single penny. But here's the twist. The 1979 D penny isn't the only coin out there with this kind of hidden value. In fact, there are several other pennies, some even more valuable, that most people completely ignore. And in our next video, we're going to reveal them. Coins that could be sitting in your collection right now, worth even more than this one. So don't miss it. Because the next coin we talk about might be the one that changes your life. What if I told you that right now, sitting quietly in a jar, tucked inside an old drawer, or hiding in your pocket, there could be a single penny worth $811,000. Not a gold coin, not a rare antique, just a simple 1975 D. Lincoln penny. Sounds impossible, right? But here's the truth. It's not just possible, it has already happened. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, how to spot the difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing one, and why thousands of people across America are now checking their spare change like never before. So don't skip ahead. Because the smallest detail could be the difference between 1 cent and nearly $1 million. Let's start with something simple. The year is 1975. America is recovering from economic uncertainty. Inflation is rising, and millions of pennies are being produced at the Denver Mint, each stamped with that small but powerful D Mint mark. At first glance, These coins are completely ordinary. In fact, you've probably handled dozens, maybe hundreds, without even noticing. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because hidden among those millions of coins, a tiny number were struck with rare minting anomalies. Mistakes so subtle, so precise, that most people overlook them entirely. And yet, collectors are willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to own one. Why? Because in the world of coin collecting, rarity creates value, but errors create legends. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not just glanced at it, but really studied it. Exactly. That's why these coins slip through unnoticed. And that's exactly why some people get rich, while others unknowingly spend a fortune on a cup of coffee. The 1975 Lincoln penny becomes valuable under very specific conditions. We're talking about high-grade specimens, coins that are almost perfectly preserved, as if they just came off the mint press yesterday. We're talking about rare mint errors, double strikes, off-center impressions, or die variations that were never meant to exist. And most importantly, we're talking about coins with exceptional visual appeal, sharp details, deep luster, and surfaces free of damage. When all of these factors come together, something extraordinary happens. That 1-cent coin transforms into an asset worth hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, even more. But here's where things get even more interesting. Because not every valuable coin looks valuable. In fact, some of the most expensive pennies ever sold looked completely normal to the untrained eye. No flashing lights, no obvious signs, just a quiet, unassuming coin, waiting for the right person to recognize its true worth. Could that person be you? Now imagine this: you're cleaning out an old drawer. You find a small jar filled with coins. Dusty, forgotten. You almost throw it away. But something stops you. You remember this video. You pick up a penny. You see the year, 1975. You flip it over, and there it is, a tiny D mint mark. Your heart starts to race. Could this be it? That moment, right there, is where everything changes. But before you get too excited, let's be clear. Not every 1975 D penny is worth $811,000. In fact, most are worth exactly 1 cent, and this is where many people make a critical mistake. They assume value without verification. They rely on guesswork instead of knowledge. And as a result, they either overestimate worthless coins or worse, spend valuable ones without ever knowing. So here's what you need to look for. First, condition. Collectors use a grading system that ranges from poor condition all the way up to mint state perfection. The coins that reach extraordinary values are typically graded MS 65 or higher. That means minimal wear, strong strike quality, and original mint luster. If your coin looks dull, scratched, or heavily circulated, it's unlikely to reach high value. But if it looks almost untouched, now we're talking. Second, mint errors. This is where things get exciting. Look closely at the lettering. The date. Lincoln's profile. Do you see any doubling? Any misalignment? Any unusual features? Even the smallest irregularity could indicate a rare mint error, and these errors are what collectors hunt for, because they are unique, they are scarce, and they are incredibly valuable. Now here's a quick reality check, because I don't want you to miss this. Most people will watch this video, feel curious for a moment, and then forget about it. They'll never check their coins, they'll never take action, and they'll never know what they might have had. But a small percentage of viewers will do something different. They'll go find their coins, they'll start looking, and one of them could discover something life-changing. Why not you? Let's talk about the $811,000 figure. This isn't a random number. It represents the upper range of what collectors are willing to pay for an exceptional 1975 D Lincoln penny under the right conditions. We're talking about coins that are rare, verified, and graded by professional services. Coins that have been authenticated, documented, and recognized as truly special. These are not everyday finds, but they are real, and they do exist. Here's something most people don't realize. The coin market isn't just about age, it's about demand. And demand is driven by collectors who are willing to pay premium prices for coins that complete their collections. The rarer the coin, the higher the competition. And when multiple collectors want the same coin, the price doesn't just rise. It explodes. Now imagine being in that position, holding a coin that collectors are competing for, watching bids climb higher and higher and higher. That's not just a transaction. That's a transformation. From ordinary to extraordinary, from overlooked to highly sought after. But let's pause for a second, because I want to ask you something important. What would you actually do if you found a coin worth $811,000? Would you sell it immediately? Would you hold on to it? Would you even know where to start? This is where preparation matters, because finding the coin is only the first step. Knowing what to do next, that's what protects your value. If you believe you've found something special, the first thing you should do is avoid cleaning the coin. Yes, this might sound surprising, but cleaning a coin can actually reduce its value significantly. Collectors prefer original surfaces, even if they're slightly toned or aged, so whatever you do, don't try to improve it. Next, get it authenticated. Professional grading services exist for a reason. They evaluate the coin's condition, verify its authenticity, and assign it a grade that determines its market value. Without this step, you're guessing, and guessing can be expensive. Now here's the part most people overlook: timing. The coin market fluctuates. Values rise and fall based on demand, trends, and collector interest. Selling at the right time can make a massive difference, sometimes tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this brings us to the final act of our story. Because by now, you're no longer just watching, you're thinking, you're wondering, you're imagining. What if I have one? Here's the truth. Opportunities like this don't come with announcements. They don't knock on your door. They don't send notifications. They sit quietly, waiting to be discovered, ignored by most, recognized by few. Right now, somewhere in America, there is a 1975 D Lincoln penny sitting unnoticed. Maybe in a drawer, maybe in a jar, maybe even in someone's pocket, and the person who finds it will change their life forever. So here's your next step. After this video ends, don't just move on. Take action. Go check your coins. Look for that 1975 date. Look for that D mint mark. Examine every detail, because the difference between 1 cent and $811,000 is not luck. It's awareness. And who knows? The next time you hear a penny drop, it might not just be loose change. It might be opportunity knocking. Stay curious, stay alert, and remember, sometimes the smallest things in life carry the greatest value. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that could transform your financial future forever. A small, seemingly ordinary piece of metal, yet worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. Sounds unbelievable, right? But what if I told you that the 1960 D Lincoln 1-cent penny, yes, a penny, could be valued today at over $millions? Now, before you roll your eyes and think, yeah, right, a penny? Pause for a moment. This isn't your ordinary loose change you find between your couch cushions. This is a coin that has defied time, scarcity, and the ordinary rules of value. And if you've ever wondered whether your old Lincoln penny collection could be a secret treasure chest, today, your curiosity might just pay off. Let's start at the beginning. The 1960 D Lincoln penny wasn't minted in massive quantities like the everyday coins in your pocket today. It's one of those rare coins that quietly slipped into circulation, almost unnoticeable, while the world went on, oblivious to its hidden potential. But history, scarcity, and the passionate collector's market have made this penny an astronomical financial phenomenon. And just so you know, no, I'm not talking about some get-rich-quick scam you see in flashy ads online. I'm talking about real coins, real collectors, and real million-dollar sales. So, if you've ever tucked away old pennies in jars or boxes, pay close attention. You might be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it. Now let's dig deeper into why the 1960 D penny is so valuable. First, its rarity. Only a fraction of pennies minted that year survived in the pristine condition that collectors demand. And condition is everything in the world of coin collecting. A coin with scratches, discoloration, or wear is worth, well, pennies. But one in near-perfect condition? That's where the magic happens. Here's where it gets interesting. The 1960 D penny is not just rare. It's a symbol of history. Abraham Lincoln's profile, stamped on a coin that survived decades of daily transactions, represents resilience. Every scratch and imperfection tells a story collectors pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to own. And let me ask you this. What if your jar of coins at home contains a hidden gem? It's not paranoia. It's the reality for thousands of Americans who stumbled across rare pennies in their change, in old collections, or even in dusty coin rolls. Just last year, one 1960 penny in exceptional condition sold for $633,000. That's not a typo. A single coin, more than $500,000. So, next time someone tells you, you can't make money from pennies, you can laugh, but quietly inside you'll know the truth, because one lucky penny could completely rewrite your financial story. But here's the kicker. It's not just about luck. It's about knowledge. Knowing what to look for, how to assess condition, and how to spot a genuine rarity versus a common coin that looks shiny but is worth only face value. And that's exactly what separates the accidental millionaire from the person who walks past their fortune without even noticing it. Which brings us to the most important question. How can you identify if your penny is one of these ultra-rare gems? Let's start with the D mint mark. This little letter, found just below Lincoln's bust, signifies it was minted in Denver. But not all Denver-minted 1960 pennies are created equal. The ones that command six-figure prices today are those that are flawless, sharp detail on Lincoln's profile, no scratches, and a bright, lustrous surface. Collectors look for subtle clues. The way the light catches the coin, the crispness of the lettering, and even tiny details in Lincoln's beard. These minute differences separate a 1-cent coin from a $633,000 treasure. And here's the thing. You don't need a professional eye to spot potential. If your coin has that mirror-like shine and sharp detail, it's worth a professional grading because that step alone can confirm if it belongs in the millionaire's league. And now, let's talk scarcity. In 1960, the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies, but only a handful survived in near-perfect condition. Time, circulation, and handling destroyed most. The surviving pristine specimens are what make this coin a crown jewel of any collection. But here's something that might shock you. Not all 1960 pennies are visible on the market. Some are hidden in private collections, waiting for the right buyer. And one lucky coin could appear tomorrow in your hands or in someone else's collection, changing their life forever. Will it be you? Now, imagine this. You have a 1960 penny, and after proper grading, it turns out to be in exceptional condition. You're not just holding a coin. You're holding a key to opportunity, a piece of history, and potentially life-changing wealth. But here's where urgency comes in. The market for rare coins is hot. Millionaires and serious collectors are constantly on the lookout for rare finds. Prices rise every year, and coins like the 1960 Lincoln penny are only going to become scarcer and more valuable. Waiting too long could mean watching your potential fortune slip through your fingers while someone else cashes in. And here's another truth. You don't have to be a professional coin dealer to benefit. Many of the wealthiest collectors started as ordinary people, just curious, just observant, and willing to take the step to verify and sell a rare find. A single coin, carefully preserved and verified, can grant financial freedom you may have only dreamed of. So yes, that jar of old pennies in your closet might just be more exciting than your stock portfolio. Who knew? Lincoln might just have the last laugh. In the end, the 1960 Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of potential, of hidden opportunity, and of the incredible power of knowledge. One small discovery could turn decades of forgotten change into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe even more. So here's what you should do next. Take a close look at your old coins, get them professionally graded if you suspect one might be rare, and don't underestimate the value of knowledge. The 1960 Lincoln penny is a reminder that sometimes wealth isn't just about what you earn. It's about what you recognize and act on. Because when history, rarity, and opportunity collide, fortunes are made. And maybe, just maybe, one of those fortunes belongs to you. But here's the part most people miss. There's another rare penny from the same era that recently sold for over $1 million. And most collectors have never even heard of it. Curious to find out which one? Stay tuned, you won't want to miss this.